Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of or session of the Cheese Trap. This is number 3, and I am welcoming everybody. I'm Gustavo Trolosa, the host for this online book club, which is free and open to everyone. And this month, we are in October of 2020. We are reading Dr. Neil Barnard's book, The Cheese Trap, and such a fascinating book and written in such a fun, if we could say that, easy reading, very, very good. So what I want to do, besides reading this wonderful book, is at the same time bring guests, maybe every Saturday, maybe every other Saturday, to give you actual recipes that are plant-based that you can use as substitute for cheese, and that will hopefully help you to get away from this cheese trap. So I will go ahead and put the slide presentation one more time because I have something that I would like to show you. And let's see here. Just a few announcements. I hope to have a very special guest next week. Her name is Shada Soleimani, and Shada and I have made many videos together where she cooks wonderful, flavorful recipes. And her website is Healthy Cooking with Shada. And hopefully she will be here with me next Saturday, and she will show you one of her favorite cheese sauces that she'll make for you, and then you can try it yourself at home. Then today you will get 2 recipes from Chef AJ, and I hope also that you will try them and let me know what you think. And I want to announce that I am presenting the episode 3 of The Chef and the Pianist, a show that I put together once a month that combines really nice, original, totally new recipes that I share with you. And you also get the PDF with the written recipes. You get unlimited access to the video. Then I always play music that goes with the food that we make. And I have a guest that is Dr. Diego Ponyman from New York City, who always talks to us about the health benefits of the main ingredients that we're using in the recipes. And this month, I have 2 very special guests. You get to meet a very good friend of mine, Anna. And Anna is a vegan, a plant-based vegan here in the city of Cordoba, Argentina. And she's going to join us, and she is a great cook. And we have 3 recipes that you're going to love. I'm going to tell you about those at the end of this session. And just to remind you that I have a Facebook page that is called Dr. Starch, all spelled out. And my YouTube channel, you just go to YouTube, you type my name, and you're there. And if you don't mind subscribing, that helps me to continue making free videos. So, I found, okay, so we're going to look today, we're going to cover chapter 3, hopefully all of it. And I found these pictures that I want to share with you very quickly, because sometimes I look at them and I almost don't recognize the person. That's me in 2012. And with 70 pounds extra and feeling very bad, to say the least. There's another picture of me at about the same time, and then another. And that's a recent one. And that's one with Dr. McDougall when I started the program, which I was still 70 pounds overweight. Okay, so just a little bit of fun there. Very good. So let's get started today with chapter 3 of the Cheese Trap. And please feel free to write comments or write questions. If I have the answer, I will give you the answer. If not, I will find it for you. And let's get started. So this chapter 3 talks to us about a study that the University of Michigan researchers did, and asking people what the question was, which foods do you find most addictive? So at 5th place came ice cream. I used to like ice cream a lot. I'm not an ice cream person, but yes, some people are really addicted to ice cream. If you want to, let me see here. If you want to like my Facebook page, I am putting it here on the screen. Because I do put a lot of free information and videos and recipes, so you might want to follow me there. Okay, number 5 was ice cream. Number 4 was cookies. I think I can definitely live without those two. Number 3 and 2 were actually tied. It was very close, and one was chips and one was chocolate, and those are kind of I have more harder time. I don't do that anymore, but I mean, from time to time I do have a little bit of chocolate, and it's usually the dark, like 95% dark. So it's so bitter and dark that I have a tiny piece like this, and it kills my appetite for chocolate. But chocolate and chips really are addictive. And then number 1, guess what? Of all the foods, pizza. Yeah, pizza, number 1. It came up first. Now, if you look at all those foods, those are foods that don't appear in nature. So, there's not a plant or a tree that gives ice cream or cookies or, chips or chocolate. Well, chocolate, you have the chocolate beans, the cocoa beans, but it's a huge difference from that bean to the actual chocolate that you eat later. Which in many cases contains milk and sugar, tons of sugar. And then pizza, of course, we don't have any kind of tree or plant that gives pizza. So, and the reason why I say that is because these are all highly processed foods. These are not whole food, plant-based, foods. So they pretty much are void of fiber and pretty much void of water. So that's why they are so high in calorie. They're calorically dense foods that you could eat one chocolate chip, or you could eat close to 20 oranges. Okay, so you can see the difference between what's going to fill you up, 15 to 20 oranges or one little chocolate chip. So that's the question here. And the question was, which foods do you have a problem with? Which ones lead you into overeating, gaining weight, and feeling lousy? Which foods seduce you, then leave you with regrets? And why did pizza come up first? And this is on page 38 of the book. So there are 3 reasons of why pizza came up first as being one of the hardest to give up and easy to become addicted to. And it combines 3 things. I would say even more than 3. It's like a very one of the worst possible combinations out there. You have salt in large amounts, you have fat in large amounts, you have flour, and then you have opiates. Yes, you're hearing it right. So salty foods can be habit forming. Dr. Barnard says French fries, salted peanuts, pretzels, and other salty foods are hard to resist. And food manufacturers know that adding salt to a recipe adds cash to the register. Yes. So your body does need some salt. But how much? Well, about 1.5 grams per day, according to the U.S. health guidelines. That is a very, very tiny amount, 1.5 grams. So, many years ago, our ancestors, it was difficult. Like he says here, salt was not easy to come by. You couldn't go to the store and just go buy a box of salt. You couldn't, go and get a bag of potato chips, bathed in salt. So after all, potato chips and pretzels had not yet been invented. So people who managed to get their hands on salt were more likely to survive. Your neurological circuitry is set up to detect it, crave it, and jump in when you have found it. Yes, our bodies crave it and look for it and detect salt. That's a survival. The problem is that the amounts of salt that we're ingesting today are way over what we need. So, he is reminding us of, basic 5th grade biology that teaches us that our tongue is very sensitive to salt. And brain scanning studies show that your brain is extra attuned to it. Deep inside the brain, in what is called commonly the reward center, brain cells make the feel-good neurotransmitter dopamine. And in certain situations, it floods out of the cells, stimulating neighboring cells. So dopamine is a substance that rewards you for doing things that help you or your progeny to live on, to procreate, and to survive. And scientists believe that dopamine plays a role in our desire for salt. So when we find salt, when we eat salt, we get pleasure from dopamine. So is there really a lot of salt in pizza? What do you guys think? Is there really a lot of salt in pizza? Well, a 14-inch Domino's cheese pizza has, okay, let's take a deep breath here, 3,391 milligrams of sodium. Just one slice delivers 400 milligrams. So it's in the crust and in the toppings and in the cheese. So salt is one of the reasons that pizza attracts us. Pizza is also greasy, and that greasy, salty combination seems to get us hooked, just as it does for chips, fries, and onion rings. But pizza has one more thing. It has cheese, and cheese not only contributes its own load of salt and grease, which is bad in itself, but on top of the salt and the grease, cheese also contains traces of a very special kind of opiate, which is called casomorphins. Okay, and so I'm on page 39, and you want to read that section of this kind of special opiate. Dairy protein on page 40, okay, Dr. Barnard says, dairy protein has opiate molecules built right into it. Opiates in dairy products? What the heck are they doing there, you might ask? Well, imagine if a calf did not want to nurse, or if a human baby was not interested in nursing, what would happen? Well, the species would gradually disappear. So you have to reward that calf or that baby for wanting to drink that milk. They, would not do very well. So along with protein and along with fat and along with sugar and a little bit of hormones, milk contains opiates that reward the baby for nursing. And you have probably seen this. You have probably seen the face of a baby when it's nursing. And it's like, oh, I'm going to try to imitate. I'm not. I don't want to go there. But, you've seen their face, this pleasure and content and relaxation, almost like they're, just getting high in a way. But the infant has a look of great intensity. And then what happens? It collapses into sleep. Of course, we imagine that to be the beauty of the mother-infant bond, but the fact is, mother's milk delivers a mild drug to the child, albeit in a benign and loving way, okay? If that sounds coldly biological, it pays to remember that nature never leaves anything as important as a baby's survival to chance. Opiates have a calming effect, and they also cause the brain to release dopamine, leading to a sense of reward and pleasure. So a cup of milk contains about 7.7 grams of protein, 80% of which, look at that, 80% of that protein is casein, more or less. Turning it into cheddar cheese multiplies the protein content to 7-fold when we turn milk into cheese. So it's not 7.7 grams anymore of protein. Now it's 56 grams. It is the most concentrated form of casein in any food in the grocery store. Call it a dairy crack, okay, if you want. Just as cocaine manufacturers have found ways to turn an addictive drug like cocaine into an extremely addictive one, crack, dairy producers have found their own ways to keep you coming back. In the Middle Ages, cheesemakers had no idea that cheese might concentrate milk's addictive qualities, but today's cheese industry knows all about cheese cravings and is eager to exploit it. And we're going to see that in chapter 8 as we move on with our book. So on page 42, in the middle, more or less, on the third paragraph, it says, one more thing. Dopamine sometimes makes us confuse addiction with friendship. And this is where it gets a little bit scary, because this is where we start I guess, when we call comfort foods, and when we think of a food as a friend and something that loves us, it's messing up with our brain. So Dr. Barnard says, one more thing, dopamine sometimes makes us confuse addiction with friendship. In the same way that alcoholics describe the bottle as their friend, and chocolate lovers sometimes turn to chocolate when they're lonely, as if chocolate can make up for a lack of human contact, that's dopamine at work. Dopamine can also turn the unwashed feet smell of a strong cheese from repulsive to attractive and convince us that even if our human friends let us down, this gloppy load of calories still cares about us. It's like I told you earlier, it's so well written. There's just the right amount of humor in the book to get the point across. Now, starting on page 42 and 43 and 44 and 45, you get some stories from real people, what they went through. You read about Cherry, you read about Ron, you read about Alan. So I'm going to let you read that, and we are going to move forward. But those are good stories because, these are real people that have gone through what you're going through if you're going through difficulty in stopping the cheese addiction, the cheese trap. On page 51, there is a title that says, "So, am I a cheese addict?" How do you know? How do you know if you're a cheese addict? I was a cheese addict, and as you saw in those pictures, I looked like cheese. It was greasy, it was bloated, it was not nice. I mean, at least I don't think it looks nice. But I can say that I'm not an addict anymore, and it just doesn't call me. Maybe it's because I know too much, and I see a piece of cheese, and I see pus, and I see hormones, and I see tons of fat and salt, and so I just don't see cheese. I see those things. But okay, so are you a cheese addict? Well, addiction is a strong word, like Dr. Barnard says. Let's see how the American Psychiatric Association defines these sorts of things. So let's see here. You need to meet at least 2 criteria from a list that includes the following signs, among others. And these are listed on page 51. One of them is taking in larger amounts than intended. If you find yourself taking in larger amounts than you intend, that could be a sign of addiction. Another one, persistent desire or unsuccessful attempts to cut down or control use. So you try to stop it and you can't, and you try to cut it down or to control it and you cannot. Okay, that's another sign. Another sign, craving or strong desire for the substance. And another sign, continued use despite having a problem that has been caused or exacerbated by the substance. So if you have 2 of those 4, you probably have an addiction to that substance. In this case, we're talking about cheese. So on page 52, it says, although some health professionals are reluctant to suggest that being hooked on foods it's similar to being hooked on drugs, many people who have food-related problems say that it really does feel very much like any other addiction. Some go further, saying that ignoring the addictive characteristics of certain foods makes it that much harder to tackle the problem. And here I just want to say something of my own. You know, it is so difficult for some people. I have people who ask me this question: what do I do when I have trouble with food, or I know that I have an addiction, and my husband or my wife or my family, my friends, they don't take it seriously, and they actually bring it to me, or they have it in the house when they know that it's detrimental to me. And I just think that for the most part, society has accepted that, for example, alcohol can be an addiction, and we would never offer an alcoholic a glass of wine or beer or something and say, here, oh, just one is not going to hurt. That we would be unthinkable. Or you invite somebody to your house, and if you have an alcoholic, you're more sensitive. You ask them sometimes, if they're recovering or if they have recovered, or during the process, will it bother you if I have alcohol? And that if it does, you're not going to have it because you care about the person, whether that person is a family or a friend. That somebody just stopped smoking, you're not going to light a cigarette and smoke in their face, or say, I know that you stopped, and I know it's bad for you, but just one is not going to hurt you, and then you have somebody that have problems with some kind of a drug, and again, hey, just do it once, it's not going to hurt. So we have accepted that those things are unacceptable, and that we're not going to offer those substances that we know somebody has stopped using them or are trying to stop. But with food, for some reason, we don't take it as seriously. Sometimes we even joke, hey, just have a piece of, just have whatever, have this. I made it specially for you. Just one time, it's not going to hurt, when in fact it hurts the same as any other addiction. And it will take you down a spiral that you don't want to go down. Of course, like we said at the beginning of this series, not everybody is the same. For example, if I had to eat, I don't know, a piece of cheese, let's say. Okay. I know that I would not want to eat the whole piece, or that I'm not going to go and find more. I just know that. But we're all different, and we're all at different points in our journey through this whole food, plant-based way of eating. So I just want to mention that because I think we all need to do a little bit of education sometimes and teach people that food addiction, and I like to say processed food addiction, because food addiction, I don't believe there is food addiction, because kale is food. I don't know anybody that wakes up in the middle of the night and is dying to have some kale. I don't know somebody that craves it and cannot work or concentrate or control the amounts of kale or of spinach that they eat. I think that when we talk about food addiction, we really are talking about processed food addiction, things that have been concentrated in calories, and they have high amounts of fat and sugar and salt, and in many cases flour. So we have some work to do. And sometimes in a loving way, we have to explain to people that food addiction is not any different. I mean, I'm sure there are differences. I'm not an expert in food addiction. I have worked with Chef AJ, who is, I consider, an expert in food addiction, and her program concentrates, is for everybody, but it really concentrates and helps people with that kind of addiction. So just have to sometimes tell people, again, in a very nice way, we need to tell them. Okay, so page 52. If you would like to differentiate between liking something and being hooked on it, try these 3 questions. There are 3 questions to differentiate between liking something and being hooked on something. Number 1, do you have it every day, and especially at about the same time of day? Number 2, do you crave it do you crave it and or miss it when it's gone? And number 3, are you paying a price for it, especially with regard to your health? As these questions suggest, addictions tend to be on cycles. We fall into patterns that recur day after day. They involve craving, an intense desire for something, or intensely missing when it's gone. Finally, they hurt us. Some things hurt us a little, like caffeine's withdrawal effects, for example. Others hurt us a lot, like drugs, alcohol, and cigarettes can be in that category. Food problems can range from minor to major, and sometimes they're life-threatening. Whether you're hooked on how much harm it may be causing, that's for you to decide. And then the last page of chapter 3, page 53, says, just as smokers quickly learn that it is much easier to simply avoid cigarettes than to try to have them in moderation, you will likely find that the same is true of foods that call your name. You may also find that social support is especially helpful, and that avoiding trigger situations is too. And here is another one of those, I want to say lie is a strong word, but it's just incorrect. It's one of those misconceptions. Have everything in moderation. Well, if moderation worked, we wouldn't have an epidemic of overweight and obesity in the US and in the world, because very few people, a very, very, very low percentage of people have that moderation. So like Dr. McDougall says, and like AJ says, moderation kills. So it's the same, we alcoholic cannot have alcohol in moderation. Crack addict cannot have crack in moderation. If you smoke, it's very hard to have it in moderation. So the good news is that it is easy to find delightful substitutes for foods that are unhealthful. And later on in this book, in chapter 10, we will have recipes. But today, I asked Chef AJ if she would let me show 2 of her short, they're like 5-minute videos, where she shows you some cheese sauce that I think you are going to enjoy. So we're going to see 2 of her recipes. You can then replay this and write them down. I don't have the written version of the recipes. I believe they are in her book, Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss, which is going to be one of the books that we're going to read in this book club at some point. And so I think the recipes are there, but they're not difficult, so you can write it down. And then after that, I'll show you something else, and then we'll finish today. So let's put the videos here. Hold on.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm Chef AJ, the author of The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss, and this is where I show you recipes for healthy, permanent, and sustainable weight loss. The other day I posted a photo of my dinner on Instagram. It was delicious fries made in my air fryer with a cheese sauce, and people were like, you have a cheese sauce? Yeah, I've had a cheese sauce recipe for like 12 years. There's actually 2 of them in my book. So I'm going to show you my nacho cheese sauce. I think I was one of the first people to actually make an SOS free one, sugar, oil, salt free, and it's really easy. You know, the fake cheese sauces or the faux cheese sauces really are just a combination usually of either vegetables and starches, one or the other, sometimes both. Often they use a lot of fat, like from coconut yogurt or nuts, or sometimes they use beans. I like to do things with veggies if at all possible, just because it's really easy to get people to eat, you know, beans and starches like potatoes and oats and nuts, but it's not as easy to get people to eat vegetables. So if I can make vegetable-based sauces, that's what I'm going to do. They're lower in calorie density and they're very high in nutrient density, and it's a great way to sneak more vegetables in. I actually have a sauce on this channel called One Sauce that uses no nutritional yeast, which is an ingredient in pretty much all the faux cheese sauces. And in this one, you can actually, I found, even omit it, because the other day when I made it, I didn't have any, and guess what? It was still really, really good. When you use nutritional yeast, and again, it's controversial. Some doctors are against it, some are for it, some say just a sprinkle. It's your choice what you want to do, but it is recommended that when you do use it, use one that is unfortified. And I'll try to link to the article from Dr. Furman as to why. This brand you can get at Sprouts and Mother's. It's called KAL, and then there's a brand that tastes very good called Sari that's also unfortified. But the doctors, at least that I work with, say if you're going to use it, use an unfortified brand. So we're going to have our cauliflower, a steamed cauliflower, a pound of cauliflower, and I just cook it in this little Pampered Chef microwave steamer for 6 minutes, because then it's nice and soft. And the truth is you can just get a bag, a 16-ounce bag of frozen cauliflower, defrost it. It works beautifully, so it's even easier. And sometimes what people like to do is to put a little bit of starch in just to make it a little thicker. So a lot of people do oats, some people use nuts as a thickener, or beans. What you can do is take out maybe 4 ounces of the cauliflower, because sometimes cauliflower comes in 12-ounce bags, believe it or not. Maybe use a small piece, like a 4-ounce piece of a Yukon Gold potato. That would work fine. But it does work great just with all vegetables. So I am going to put this in the blender, and I'm going to add my lemon juice. I'm going to add my bell pepper. I say I'm using an orange one because I couldn't find a red one, and that's fine because faux cheese often looks orange. I just took the seeds out. I should probably make that a little bit smaller for blending. And you know what? I've made this even when I haven't had the pepper, and it's been fine. If you like roasted bell peppers, I just don't know how to use a gas stove. 59 years I had electric. I can't figure out this stove. Oh well. What kind of chef am I, right? But you can always get the roasted ones in the jars. Just rinse the extra salt out. And then my pre-measured spices, as always. I think the secret to SOS free in many of my recipes, and I've been doing this for probably 12 years, is the combination of smoked paprika, which is much different than regular, and a little bit of chipotle powder. And we're going to just put a little bit of water to get it to blend, maybe 1/4 cup. You don't want too much water, but you want enough so it will blend. We're going to put the top on our blender. High-powered blenders are great if you can get one. And that's it. You see how quick and easy this was. I did not put the nutritional yeast in. I'm finding it really doesn't agree with me. I always get don't feel my best when I have it, kind of a stomach ache, but you can see it looks like the faux cheese sauce. It will taste like it. This is a nacho cheese one with the spices I used. And if you were to run the blender long enough, what you would have is hot sauce that you can put on your fries or whatever you want to use it for. But it's really easy and it's healthy, and I hope you'll try this recipe, and if you try it, you'll like it. Thanks so much for watching another episode of Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm Chef AJ, and I truly believe you can have both the health and the body you so richly deserve. Take care now. Hey everybody, and welcome to Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm Chef AJ, the author of The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss, and this is where I show you recipes to help you achieve and maintain healthy, permanent, and sustainable weight loss. So today I'm going to show you how to make what I call one sauce. It's called one sauce because once you learn this, all you need is one. All you need is one. So I get a lot of requests for sauce recipes. I get a lot of requests in general. And it seems that a lot of people have a lot of food preferences, allergies, intolerances, and they send me a recipe that was their favorite recipe, and they ask me to tweak it or fix it to take out the offending item. And let me tell you, I can do it, but I just don't have time. That's called recipe development, and I get paid by restaurants to do it, but it takes hours. And I find that sometimes, not sometimes, actually always, at least for me, it's just easier to come up with a brand new recipe than to try to substitute the ingredients, at least in the recipes I've created from scratch, which are pretty much all 300 of my recipes. There's a lot of people that can't have nutritional yeast. I try not to include it in my recipes because my mentor, Dr. Ellen Goldhammer, does not allow it at True North. He's not a fan of it, especially for people with GI disturbances like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis or IBS or really any GI issues. He's shown me articles in the medical research why it's not favorable. He says it's a high calorie food, it's a concentrated protein. He doesn't like it. And if he doesn't like it, he's pretty much been right about just about everything I've learned from him. So I'm not going to really use it. Now, it is in a few of my recipes. Probably of the 300 recipes I've created, I would say less than 10, and in all but 2, the faux parmesan and enlightened faux parmesan, which is a variation of the faux parmesan, and the barefoot dressing, I always do it optional. I always try to use a very small amount, like 4 tablespoons. Now, I do recommend if you use nutritional yeast, you get the unfortified. That's what the doctors say to get. It's not healthy when it's fortified with folic acid or B vitamins, and I know some people that live in other countries that don't have access to Amazon maybe can't find unfortified, so I say when in doubt, leave it out, because I'm leaving it out of this recipe, and this is a, quote, cheese sauce, and it tastes just fine. I had a friend over, and she said it tasted even better than any cheese sauce she had. So I learned how to make it without nutritional yeast to taste cheesy, but then I got other people telling me what they can't have. Now, originally, all the cheese sauce recipes started with about a cup of cashews, which is a lot of fat and a lot of calories. And so I taught you a long time ago that you can generally substitute beans like cannellini beans, the white bean, which is very neutral tasting, for nuts in a recipe that's a creamy sauce. Now, how much? It just depends. It's going to depend on a lot of factors, but it made a nice substitute. But there's a lot of people now with SIBO and IBS that can't have legumes, so they wanted a cheese sauce that didn't have legumes. So there's other things to make things creamy other than beans and nuts. For example, oats make things really creamy. Oats are really high in fat when you think about it. For a grain, almost 20% of their calories are from fat. But then I heard from somebody that wanted something without grains in it. So I thought, well, potatoes, Yukon Gold potatoes, incredible for creamy sauces. And then, of course, the next person was looking for something without potatoes. So I'm pulling out my head thinking, how am I going to make a cheese sauce without nutritional yeast, without nuts, without beans, without oats, without potatoes that tastes good? Well, my friends, cauliflower to the rescue. So if you watch my show, you know that I've been using a lot of cauliflower to make unbelievable things like the honey mustard dip. So in here I have cooked, very important that it be cooked, it's steamed, a 12-ounce bag of organic cauliflower, and I steamed it in a cup of water because I want to have a little bit of water for the sauce, and I always have extra water on standby in case I want the sauce a little bit thinner. So you don't have to wait and cool this because this cheese sauce is often served hot, but in the interest of time, I have cooled it. So what I did is I cooked this in this really cool little Pampered Chef micro steamer. If you go to my Amazon store, all the items that I use are in there if you want to know what my favorites are. I cooked this for 6 minutes in the microwave with a cup of water, and now I'm going to put it in the blender. And then I'm going to add my roasted vegetables. Now this is very important that you roast them and don't use them raw. This is where the flavor is going to come from. So I have 8 ounces of orange bell pepper. You could use yellow or red. The reason I use the orange is because I was trying to get it to look like cheese without the nutritional yeast. But I've done this with a red bell pepper and yellow absolutely fine. I've got 8 ounces of carrots, which I cut small, and that would be about probably 1 large or 2 regular sized carrots. I've got 4 ounces of a sweet onion, and I've got about 8 cloves of garlic. And so when you think about it, with the 12 ounces of cauliflower, there is going to be 2 pounds of just non-starchy vegetables in this sauce. Is that incredible? Then you put it on vegetables and you're gonna get your dose of vegetables for the day. Now, I roasted this on a Silpat in my air fryer. You could use your oven for about 30 minutes at 400, but be mindful that things cook differently. So the carrots are very dense, so I cut them as small. This is much more watery, so I cut it in big pieces. And the garlic, I put in 15 minutes into it, because if you put the garlic in the whole time, I totally forgot, 30 minutes is way too long. It's gonna burn. So you can either put the garlic in at the beginning and take it out in 15 minutes, but you do need to watch it. So I've got all my wonderful roasted vegetables that I'm going to put in the blender. And like I say, I wouldn't use a green bell pepper. One, they don't taste very good, they're unripe, but the orange would be the best color. Red is okay, yellow is okay. And then I've got my garlic. What I do is I use those little packs from Trader Joe's, 1 pack. Sometimes it's 8 cloves, sometimes it's 10. And then my onion. I probably wouldn't use a red onion here. I'm using a white or a sweet onion. And now my spices, which I need to go over there because I forgot them. Okay. So I've got 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, just 1. And then in here, I've got my 3 spices. I've got a teaspoon of smoked paprika, very different than regular. I've got 1 teaspoon of roasted garlic, Benson's Table Tasty, and I've got 1/8 of a teaspoon of chipotle powder. Chipotle is a smoked jalapeno. I'm gonna put it in. Now, if you can't get the roasted garlic, Benson's Table Tasty, use the regular. This just is a little bit more flavorful. And now I am going to blend it, starting with the blender on low. Blender, you could let it run for a few minutes and then the sauce will actually be hot if you want to serve it over, say, for example, my favorite thing, which is steamed broccoli. This will get your kids to eat their broccoli, I swear. Now, it's also great as a dip for chips. I like to make my own chips, tortilla chips out of just corn or corn and lime in the air fryer. No sugar, no oil, no salt. So this is great to make nachos. It's delicious on potatoes or twice baked potatoes, but you can just see how thick this is. I do not want any more water. If you like it a little thinner, add some water. But this is basically 2 pounds of vegetables, and you could eat it with a spoon. So I hope you'll try this. It really is the only sauce you'll ever need. So let me know what you think of the one sauce, and thank you so much for watching another episode of Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm Chef AJ, and I make healthy taste delicious so that you can have both the health and the body that you so richly deserve. Enjoy, everybody.
Very good. All right. I talked to Chef AJ yesterday, and she is willing to come on the show and give us hints, give us other recipes. I will feature the new book that is called Own Your Health, as well as this one. And I would also like to feature Dr. McDougall's book on GI, which I think is brilliant. So anyway, those are ideas that I have. Let's see if I see any questions here. Okay, cauliflowers. Okay, I don't know. Let's see if you have any questions, please write them here. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this session of the book club, and I just want to tell you what I'm planning to show you. There is a very traditional stew in Argentina that is called locro, and it's known as the stew that raises the dead because it's so packed with nutrition and it has so much energy from starches. And so Anna and I have come up with a totally whole food plant-based version of it, with all the color is based on pumpkin and other squashes, and it's going to retain the flavor and the color, and is going to taste wonderful. So I think that it's going to become a favorite of yours, and I have never seen that stew anywhere else. We will also make the traditional Argentine empanadas, which, of course, traditionally they're little meat pies, and they different according to where you're in the country. But we are going to make them, instead of using dough made of flour, we're going to use potato, and inside there's going to be just a delicious mix of veggies and spices. And then we will show you how to make some cookies that are made of pumpkin with some frosting on top. So these are new and unique recipes. And then my friend Leonardo and I are going to play 2 pieces for violin and piano. We chose one of the hardest pieces of music written, and you're probably going to see flames coming out of the violin and piano. One is called Dance Macabre. So in a way, this episode 3 of The Pianist and the Chef has a little bit of a theme of Halloween, even though it's not a Halloween webinar. But I think you're going to love it, and then you're going to meet this guest that I'm bringing to the show. And I had fun the other night making a little trailer, which I want to show you. It's just for fun, okay? Don't expect anything. We have officially finished the webinar. I just want to give you something, I don't know, entertaining. So take a look at this little trailer that I made. All right, very good. It was kind of fun to make, and I hope you join us this time to give everybody a chance to attend. We're going to do it twice. One's going to be on October 31st, and the other time is going to be on November 3rd, so you can choose one time. And of course, if you can't be present live, you can sign up and then get the replay. And right here in the screen, I am going to put the link. And If you're watching this in YouTube later on, the link to the episode 3 of the Pianist and the Chef is down there in the description of the video. So there it is. I hope that you can join me. And if you have any questions, please email me. I'm always available. I answer my own emails. Sometimes it may take me a little longer because sometimes I get large volumes of mail. If you want to cook along, I will send you a list of ingredients. And these recipes are a little more elaborate. It could be for a special occasion. I think they would go well with Thanksgiving if you're looking for something a little bit different for your family or for yourself. That they would be great. So they're a little more elaborate because it's not something that you make every day. So I don't know if it will work for you to make it in real time, but I will send out the ingredient list, and I will probably put a note there and to let you know if it will work. Or you may choose to do one recipe live while we're cooking. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining me and for always being excited and for supporting me. You know, the way I can do a lot of these other webinars for free is because I make a little money with this once a month webinar that I do. So thank you again. And I will see you next Saturday. We will cover chapter 4, in which features Catherine Lawrence, who was our guest last Saturday. And I am almost sure that Shada is going to be able to join us live. And she's always very fun and energetic. So we're going to have a great time. I will see you next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.